Bitcoin is not going to eliminate the euro, the yen, the won, and the dollar. They will all continue. And I think that I think that it's idealistic to think that somehow all of the world's problems get solved in the next decade with Bitcoin. That's not true.
Michael Saylor is one of the most popular Bitcoin maximalists in the world. He believes Bitcoin is the only true cryptocurrency and the only one that can solve the problems of institutional financial systems. That's why it's surprising to hear him in this interview talk about the possibility of fiat currency holding its own against Bitcoin. Perhaps his stance was never properly understood before. In this video, Michael Saylor makes a lot of clarifications about Bitcoin and what to expect from it in the future. It is absolutely worth listening to. But before you go on, why not click the subscribe button? We promise top-notch crypto and finance content always. Thanks.
Under a fiat standard, you're building the economy on a crumbling, corrupt credit system where the value is draining from society's it's draining into society's goods, making them more expensive because the currency is demonetizing. And under a Bitcoin standard, you're building on a sound, virtuous money, and the value is draining into society's money, making the goods less expensive. And that's true. It's just going to take 30 years. I mean, it's a lot. Again, coming back to this, if Bitcoin became went from 400 billion to 4 trillion to 40 trillion. When it gets to 40 trillion, 100x from where it is right now, it's starting to put material pressure on a bond market, which at that point will be $200 trillion, right? So you're still only chewing into 10, 20, 30% of the bond market. Now, how fast we get there, it's probably 20, 30 years. So in the year 2050, I think that the idea is we're not gonna have a jolting revolt or a revolution in the economic system. That's not good for anybody, right? I mean, that happened in the Soviet Union and in Cuba, and we know, and North Korea, know how that ends. That's not good. What you want is a gentle progression, or a progression from a fiat system that's crumbling on corrupt credit. You want to progress from that system to sound money. And Bitcoin represents integrity, sound money. And if it took 30 to 50 years to get there, that's probably the most peaceful, least violent, most constructive way to get there. I can't see us rebuilding the entire economy in a matter of a couple of years.
How big of a threat is Bitcoin to the global financial institution? According to Forbes, the world's total net wealth was about $431 trillion. This value is distributed in different asset classes such as bonds, stocks, commodities, and even fiat-based deposits. Bitcoin has a total valuation that's just over $300 billion, which is a fraction that barely dents the valuation of other assets and currencies. But it is, all the same, very significant. The most recent IMF's report on international reserves of central banks shows that there's a global foreign exchange reserve of about 11.5 trillion US dollars, and 6.4 trillion of it is in the United States dollars and none in cryptocurrencies. As Michael Saylor rightly pointed out, even if Bitcoin gets 100 times growth, it still wouldn't take over the global financial system. So why should this even interest you? Well, this is important because it's one of the major reasons why there's a lot of speculation on Bitcoin. If you're not being realistic, your expectations for Bitcoin might be out of place. We also see that Bitcoin still has a lot of growing to do. There's a lot of potential since the global monetary system is still significantly larger than the market capitalization of Bitcoin. So we know that Bitcoin has a lot of potential growth if it can find more relevance and take a slice off some of these markets. We can also see that it would be almost impossible for Bitcoin to totally disrupt the global financial system, as it's simply too big. Would you be better off having Bitcoin or other assets? That's what Michael Saylor answers next, so let's get back to him.
Yeah, Bitcoin's not going to save the dollar from continuing losing value. Bitcoin is just going to allow you to not get poor. If you want to get rich, you have to own property. And so Bitcoin is property that the middle class and working class people can own everywhere in the world. And otherwise, they're going to be destitute. So Bitcoin is a solution to the individual and the corporation Bitcoin is not going to eliminate the euro, the yen, the won, and the dollar. They will all continue. And I think that I think that it's idealistic to think that somehow all of the world's problems get solved in the next decade with Bitcoin. That's not true. But what is true is that if you're about to become poor and starve to death in the middle of a country where the currency is collapsing, it'll solve your problem. It solves the problem of people in Lebanon or Turkey or Argentina or Venezuela. It solves their problem. And if you're a middle class person driving an Uber in the United States, you can't very well buy an 18th of a building. So it gives you property rights. You can buy a piece of property and you can save for your retirement using that property and not rely upon a third party, right? So it is a particular solution to a set of problems that individuals face.
He made some very bold claims here that we need to examine. Can Bitcoin make you rich? We know it's made people rich in the past. As a matter of fact, no single asset or commodity has given the same kind of return that Bitcoin has given. In February 2011, Bitcoin reached a valuation of $1 per Bitcoin for the first time. Fast forward to 2021, Bitcoin was trading at $68,700. That's 68,700 times the initial price in just 10 years. But that's in the past. Is Bitcoin still capable of making people rich? There's no one answer to this question. Some experts, like Cathie Wood, think Bitcoin can still go significantly up and even predicted a $1 million price valuation per Bitcoin. Many others don't agree with her or Michael Saylor. If your plans are short-term, then you may need to do a proper evaluation, and consider if you can take the risk, as there are grim predictions for the cryptocurrency in 2023, with some experts, such as Mark Mobius and ace crypto trader Gareth Soloway, predicting Bitcoin could crash even further.
I mean, when we talk about Bitcoin standard, I think a family, an individual, or a company can adopt a Bitcoin standard. I don't think we're anywhere close to a nation state adopting a Bitcoin standard. And what it really refers to normally is people focus upon accumulating and storing their wealth in sound money, and they view the Bitcoin as the soundest money. With regard to inflation, I mean, there's three theoretical sources of inflation. One is acts of God. If there's an earthquake and you live on an island, or a tsunami and you live on an island and ships can't get to you and there's a shortage of food or fuel, you're going to have inflation on the island. It has nothing to do with monetary policy, it has nothing to do with political or fiscal policy, has nothing to do with any policy. You just got struck by an earthquake. The second source is monetary policy. If there's 10 houses in the city and the supply of currency increases by a factor of 10, all other things being equal, the price of the houses is going up, probably by a factor of 10. The third source of inflation is public policy. If the federal government legislates a 10-hour work week, common sense says that stuff is going to get more expensive than a 40-hour work week or an 80-hour work week. And if they put a tariff or they make it illegal to import cheap products from China or to fabricate semiconductors in Taiwan, the price of those things is going up. So I think if we're reasonable and intellectually honest, we'll say that all sorts of policy interventions, be they monetary or defense policy, right? Foreign policy, wage and price controls, labor policy, all these policies can create inflation. And my general view, and I think most Bitcoiners' general view, is we want less government, and we believe that most public policy intervention is inflationary. And inflation itself, caused by political process, generally is not good for the world. And if the politicians weren't passing a law making it illegal to manufacture something somewhere, then someone would have manufactured it and they'd be selling it to you cheaper. And so the market economy is functioning in order to drive the price of everything down whenever it can, and the public policy is driving it up.
There's no denying that there could be a lot of use cases for Bitcoin, and it could indeed be a long-term edge, but for now, things are not looking good, and every investor must consider the risks before proceeding with any acquisition. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more, and we'll see you in the next one.